Hi guys, welcome back to Murder in Retrograde. This case that we're gonna do today is a head scratcher. Like, I'm obsessing about it now. I'm in that stage where it's like, just I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop looking it up. So we are gonna do our best to stick to the facts because I feel like the thing that I've seen a lot is there's a lot of theories and speculation, and I think we're really going to do our best to kind of stick to the facts, and at the end we can give you our theories at what we think. If you care, stay tuned for that. So let's just dive in. Britt, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so I'm Jenna Kaplan.
And I'm Brittany Sheffrin, and this is Murder in Retrograde. Okay, so first we're going to introduce you to the victim in this case. Her name was Faith Danielle Hedgepeth, and she was born September 26th, 1992 in Warren County, North Carolina, to parents Connie and Roland Hedgepeth. So this would make her a Libra, sorry.
That's okay.
Virgo stops at the 22nd. She and her family were part of the Haliwa Saponi. Does that sound right, Jenna? I'm sure you are the go-to on how to pronounce this.
I'm glad you're saying it because I kept looking at it. So I'm gonna mess it up, but I believe that sounds close enough.
So that's the tribe. Forgive me for, I'm sure, butchering it, but she was Native American, and gosh, can't you just see it? I mean, she's
is beautiful,
so stunning. The beautiful high cheekbones, olive skin, and just she was very proud of being Native American. She was in her junior year at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which is a fantastic college. She was hoping to finally break the cycle and be the first college-educated member of her family. Her father had tried, but he had to drop out. So she had big dreams, and she wanted to continue her education after getting her undergraduate, possibly becoming a pediatrician or a teacher. She clearly loved children and children loved her. And you can almost see it. She's got one of those faces that's just so warm and kind and, just attractive.
Mm-hmm.
She was a brilliant girl, accumulated so many scholarships, most notably the Gates Millennium Scholars, which is an academic scholarship award program for higher education, available only to high achieving ethnic minority students in the United States. And of course, it was created by Bill and Melinda Gates. Faith, again, would have been the first person in her family to graduate college had she survived.
Yeah, and the thing that I wanted to just jump on really quick about her heritage, like her parents have done a lot of interviews, and her dad specifically had said she after college wanted to come back to her community and like put in time and effort there and bring something back to her community and like improve her community in any way she could. She was so passionate about giving back to her community once she was done with school. And again, that I feel like you can look at her and just see that she's this wholesome, good person.
Yeah. And the more that we researched and heard things she did for her friends, things she did for her family, she was a really good person, and obviously taken out too soon. And it's always the wonderful people, right? I mean, she would have gone on to do wonderful things. She became good friends with a girl named Karina Rosario, who you will hear a lot about in this episode, while attending Chapel Hill. So close, in fact, that while Faith was waiting for her financial aid to kick in for her own place, she was staying with Karina in her one-bedroom apartment, so real close quarters.
Yeah.
Faith had just returned from for the fall semester and was doing her best to balance work, school, and a super active social schedule, right? Wasn't she super popular, Jenna? She had tons of friends, lots of activities, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, when you see interviews with friends and family, they said that she just attracted people and she had that natural charisma. And it's funny that now it's kicking in Libra. We both have Libras and they both have that dynamic. I mean, our children, you can see it, they just have that magnetic energy about them. And so yeah, she attracted people and she was beautiful and she seemed like she was a good person. And going back to her social life, she was rushing a sorority called Alpha Phi
Alpha
Omega.
Pi Omega.
Pi Omega. I was obviously not in sororities. I don't
Neither
know.
of us were.
And it was actually a Native American based sorority, which I thought was really
Awesome.
cool too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of dive into the day of that everything kind of happened and unfolded. So earlier in the evening on September 6th, about 5:45, Faith and Karina had attended this sorority event, and
They're
they,
called rush events. Do you know what that is?
I think it's the week that they're like pledging, right? That they're
Right.
trying
So
to be.
they rush and they all want to be in one of the houses. So they have events in the houses. My sister is in a sorority, so I was like
Okay, cool.
very into it when she was in. I only know about sororities from my sister. She loved it, had a great experience. I just feel like I would have been like, "Where's the door? Get me
Yeah,
out."
you and
But
I are the
that's
same
just
that way.
me.
I had gone to like maybe two fraternity or sorority events in my like lifetime, and I was like, yeah,
Same.
I don't fit in here.
In,
This is not
turned around, got out.
Um, so so the girls needed to get some homework done before the next day. So they did leave the sorority event to go to the library. Um, it's a little interesting because there's no information about where Faith went, but while they were at the library, Faith apparently left to go to someone's house and like came back for Karina. And then they went back to their apartment together. And
But this is what Karina says. That's her testimony that Faith left. We don't really know if she did or not, right?
right.
Okay.
So so yeah. So then at this point too, sometime in the night, she was texting with Faith was texting with her dad, and he was going through a hard time at the time. And he had said, and I'm gonna mess it up because I don't have it in front of me, but he said her last text with him was just have faith, I believe is what she said. Cause that was like her saying was something about just having faith. It's obviously a play off her
Yeah.
name. And that was the last text that she sent her dad, and it was that night.
And actually, just real quick, the reason that she was named Faith, she had 4 older siblings or 3 older siblings, and they were extremely poor, going through a very hard time. Her father was addicted to drugs, and her mother got pregnant. And they both said, "Look, this is our faith. This is what's going to bring us back together. She's going to help us." And she did. And they managed to, I think that they did end up divorcing, but her father got better, and she really kept the family together and was always, as Jenna said, very involved in Native American, in her culture. That's why she was at the library. She was doing a term paper on her tribe. So again, just very dedicated girl.
Yeah. So the girls leave and they get home about I think 11:30, and they at night, and this is what tells you they're in college. They just turn around and go back out to the club at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So there's CCTV that catches the girls arriving at Thrill nightclub about 12:40 in the morning. And
And that was a
then
super popular club with the college. All the college kids went there
and it's a
all the
Thursday
time.
night, which was like it probably still is. I don't know, but it was like college night out. So Thursday
Yeah.
nights were big nights to go out and party. Um, the caveat was that this club, if you were under 21, you couldn't drink. So I'm sure they maybe pre-gamed or whatever, or left
Yeah.
if they had an ID, that might be a different situation. We don't know. It doesn't matter. But there was no drinking unless you were of age in this club.
There's always a way to get a drink, right?
I mean, I had fake IDs at like 17, so
Yeah. I had
it is
sisters, so I
what
had
it
their
is.
IDs.
Oh, and you guys
Yeah.
all look alike. So
Yeah.
anyway, so they're at the club around 1:23 a.m. And we'll get into this a little bit more later. There is a pocket dial from Faith's phone, which she was notorious for doing. Apparently, her friends would see her calling. And I actually have someone in my life like this. And every time they call, I clear it because I'm like, they're just pocket dialing me because it's like unusual.
Really?
Yeah, it's like kind of unusual that they call. Like it's more of like a texting relationship. So when they call, I'm
Right.
like, and it's a butt dial.
Yeah.
So I think she kind of had a similar thing that she did with her phone. And there was a voicemail left on her friend that she called but dialed, and like I said, we'll get into that, but that was about 1:23 a.m.
Hmm.
And around 2:06 a.m. CCTV captures Karina, Faith, a person named Big Mike, and a person named Reginald Jackson leaving the club together, and then someone named Eriq. And these names we will go over a lot too, so try to bear with us. But Eriq then appears, and this is Karina's ex-boyfriend, and someone she actually has a restraining order against. But they are all in the club and or caught leaving.
It was a really tumultuous relationship. Faith knew from the get-go that Eriq was not good for Karina and kind of encouraged her to get a restraining order and to leave this guy. And then all of a sudden he shows up and you can see him on the CCTV and it looks like some sort of argument ensues.
So the girls leave, they get home. And the reason they leave too, apparently, according to Karina, is that she wasn't feeling well. And so, because it was very quick, they were there and then they kind of left like an hour and a half
Yeah.
later. And so Karina says, she wasn't feeling good and that's why they went home. So Faith and Karina were in Faith's car and went home. And again, according to Karina, she's sick. Faith's taking care of her. And then Faith says, I'm going to bed. And that's kind of where we are at around 3:04 a.m. A text message is sent from Faith's phone to Brandon Edwards, who is actually only like an acquaintance to Karina. He is, or I'm sorry, Faith, but he's Karina's ex-boyfriend. So that's kind of the dynamic there. And so from Faith's phone, she texts Brandon and says, "Hey, can you come over, please? Karina needs you more than you know. Ha ha, you know. Show her that you care." And then she had sent another text kind of correcting a spell, saying like then. Um, and around the same time, Karina's phone is showing that she's actually calling Brandon. Just being like young girls at one point, I can like totally imagine what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're both in the apartment, right? Their phones
Right.
are both being used. And then at 3:43, she corrects her text and writes then. And
Yeah.
then Karina's phone records showed she was calling him multiple times. So yeah, it's definitely girls being girls. And in fact, Faith called Brandon 4 times between 3:45 a.m. and 4:15 a.m. And so, from what we know, at 4:25, that's when Karina left the apartment. And she got into Jordan McCrary's car to go to his apartment, which was a booty call, correct?
Yes. And then
And
he has roommates, which might come into play a little bit later, but he was like this well-known soccer player at the college. So he comes and picks her up at 4:30 in the morning. Like I can't even, can't even.
right. I mean, and she says she was sick at the club. It makes me
Yeah.
feel like she wanted to get together with somebody. That's what she was calling her ex. And then she's calling this guy.
And
Finally, she gets someone to
also,
come pick her up.
let's
Go ahead.
remember too, back in the days of, I mean, I don't think you really did that. And I didn't either, but I had friends that would totally puke and rally. Like it's a thing. It's a culture.
Oh,
Like it is a real, so I mean, even if she was feeling ill, because maybe whatever, she maybe came home, was sick. We don't know. But this is all her testimony of kind of the timeline of what's happened.
yes,
Um,
and but when she's picked up, very importantly, she leaves her apartment door unlocked and Faith is inside.
yeah.
That to me is weird. Why didn't she lock her door and take her key? Why would she leave the door unlocked?
Okay, so I feel like there's two sides to this, right? One is she absolutely should be locking her door, also because she has a restraining order against Eric, who
Yeah.
again we can dive into a bit later, but he lives in the same community. So that alone would be like I would be on high alert. At the same time, it's her apartment. They're sharing it. There's probably one key. Maybe in her drunken stupor, does she think that like Faith needs the key? Do you know what I mean? Like I think you
Yeah.
both sides of the coin on this and just say either it's a drunken mistake or she thought Faith would need it or she was being reckless or
Right.
it was done nefariously. But that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
Um so she leaves and then in the morning she says that she's trying to get a hold of Faith because she needs to get a paper to school and she can't get a hold of her. So she calls their friend Marisol to come pick up Karina from Jordan's house and take her back to her apartment to get the paper, then to go to school. So Karina and Marisol get to the apartment around 11 a.m. And this is when they walk into the apartment and they find Faith. Um, Karina calls 911 and we're going to play the audio for you in a second, but Karina and Marisol were both in the apartment. And during this call, I think you'll notice that you don't hear Marisol, you don't hear her being talked about, you don't hear her in the background, which I think is a little bit odd. Um,
There's even moments in the 911 call where she says things about being alone, or she alludes to something. I don't remember what it is. I'll
No,
have to
there's
look into
something
it.
she says and where she's like things look different, things move around, somebody was here. It seems like someone was here is kind of I think what you're talking about. I don't think she says anything. I mean, we're gonna listen to it. So
Maybe it's the 911 caller. Somebody says something like, "It's okay, they're coming. You won't be alone for long," or something similar, something like that.
and she doesn't like okay. Um so yeah, okay. So let's play the 911 tape and then we will kind of dive in. But
Let's do
I'm
it.
sure if you have heard this 100 times, you can just skip. It's fine.
Yeah.
But for the story, we need to let you hear the whole audio. So here we go.
Durham 911, where is your emergency?
I just walked into my apartment and my friend was just like, she's unconscious.
Okay, what's your address, ma'am?
I live at Hawthorne at the View.
Give me the address.
I just moved here. I'm about to get it. Oh my God. It's 5639 Old Chapel Hill Road in Durham.
Okay, repeat it to me so I make sure I've got it correct.
Okay. 5639 Old Chapel Hill Road. It's apartment
what's
1602.
1602?
Yes.
What's the phone number you're calling from? Okay, you say your friend is unconscious?
She's unconscious. I just walked in the apartment and looks like there's blood everywhere.
Okay, listen to me. Listen to me. Somebody's already sending the ambulance. Okay? I need to get some information from you, and I'm gonna tell you how to help her, okay?
Okay.
Okay, how old is she?
She's 19.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't want to touch her, but...
Listen to me. Is she breathing?
I don't know.
You need to check and see. Is she breathing?
I don't think so.
Okay, listen to me.
There's blood everywhere.
There's what?
There's blood everywhere.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, is she on her back or is she laying on her stomach?
She's on her back, but like I think she fell off the bed because she's like off the bed. There's blood all over the pillows, like in the comforter. I just don't know what happened.
Okay. All right, listen to me, all right?
Is someone coming?
Yes, I've got somebody coming. I need for you to help her. I need for you to go up to her. We need to see if she's breathing or not. Okay?
I don't think so.
Okay. Listen to me. Go up. The paramedics are on their way. I want you to stay on the line. I'm going to tell you what to do next, all right? Are you right by her now?
Yes.
Okay. Listen carefully.
Moving.
She's not moving. Okay.
No.
Will you touch her arm? Tell me, how does she feel?
She's not moving.
Okay, ma'am, we need to find out if we can help her or not. You've got to, do as I'm asking so we can help her. All right? Okay. If you can, lay her flat on her back. Remove any pillows.
Lay her flat on her back?
Flat on her back. Remove any pillows.
Okay.
Okay. Kneel next to her. Look in her mouth for food or vomit.
Blood everywhere.
Okay. Kneel next to her. Look in her mouth for food or vomit. Tell me something. Listen to me. What is your name?
Karina. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
It's okay, honey. Listen to me.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Listen to me. When you touched her, how does she feel? Does she feel warm?
No, she feels cold.
She feels cold? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Don't touch anything else, okay? Don't touch anything else.
Amazing. Hurry.
Okay, they're on their way. I've got police on the way to you, and I've got medics on the way. Okay?
I can't believe this.
Okay. What room is she in?
She's in my bedroom.
Okay, I want you to go back into the living room, okay?
I don't know what's going on. Like,
okay, listen to me.
In my room that, like, was not here before.
Okay,
listen
like
to me. Someone had came in here.
Okay.
It really does.
All right, what did you say your name was again?
Because
okay, I don't. Okay, listen to me. Don't touch anything else in the room.
I'm not
I want you to leave that room. Go into the living room. You need to make sure the door is unlocked so somebody can get in, so that the medics and the police can get in when they get there. Okay?
Yes, it's unlocked.
Okay, now tell me again.
They're get here, though.
Okay, they're on their way, honey. They're coming as fast as they can. You just stay on the phone with me, all right?
I am.
Okay, tell me again what your name is.
It looks like someone has been in there because she's not like the cell. I don't know what
Okay. I've let them know. We've got everybody on the way to help you. Now, tell me again what your name is.
What?
What is your name?
Karina Rosario.
Karina?
Yes.
Okay, Karina. You sit down on the couch and don't touch anything, okay? You just sit down.
I'm not touching anything.
Okay. I just want you to sit down because the police and the medics are going to be there. They're coming just as fast as they can, all right?
Okay.
You just stay on the phone with me. Okay? You just stay on the phone with me.
Are you sure they're coming?
Yes, ma'am. They are on their way.
I just can't believe this. No, someone had to have been in there.
Okay. We've got first responders on the way. There's a fire truck coming. There's a medic coming, and the sheriff's department's on the way to you.
Okay.
You just stay on the phone with me until somebody gets there with you. All right?
Okay.
Okay, Karina. How old are you, Karina?
I'm 20.
You're 20? Okay, hon. You're doing all right. You just stay on the phone with me.
I see the police.
You see the police?
Yes.
Okay. You let me know when they get in there with you, and then you can talk to them, all right? I just don't want you to be alone right now.
Okay.
Okay? You just stay on the phone with me.
Okay.
Are they in there with you? They coming in?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, honey. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so you just heard the 911 call made by Karina Rosario when she walked into her apartment and she found Faith Hedgepeth's body on her bed. And just okay, so let's unpack this.
Let's do this. I'll be devil's advocate and you be like the person that a lot of people are speculating. Let's do that because I feel like we can kind of argue both sides here to like be fair to Karina and the story.
So the lack of emotion in the call, she could be in shock. She could be, it's hard for me to argue the devil's advocate because I just don't understand it.
I'm saying I'll do it. I'll be the devil's advocate. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you will. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be devil's advocate. You
got it. Let's go. And scene. So she's not emotional at all. She doesn't sound like she's in shock at all to me. She has like a whiny voice, it's I want to talk to our speech pathologist again and be like, what is this voice? Because we've all heard 911 calls. We've all been in shock, and seeing her body was covered in blood. It was a gory scene, and she just keeps saying unconscious, and she's not saying like, I mean, she does say a few times there's blood everywhere, right? But not that should be the first thing. And if I saw you or something like that, I would run to you. I would check for a pulse. I would feel you. And it seems like she doesn't want to go near her. Everything about this 911 call screams to me that she was involved.
Okay. So I think this is the other side of it, is that she's 19 years old. She's 19.
Yeah.
She is very naive. She's possibly living outside of her home for the first time. She walks into what is probably the most traumatic thing she will ever see in her entire life.
Yeah.
And I think you go into, as a young adult, almost like mommy mode of like, and I mean like child mode. Like she like needs her mommy and
Protect
she's like,
yourself.
she's
Yeah.
like, oh my God. And I think her brain, like we all react differently. Like, and that is so important. And I always look at my kids, funny enough, like one reacts in panic and anxiety and like was a car was coming towards this one and she stood there and I was like, get out of the way. Do you know what I mean? Like and then my other one is immediately into action, immediately doing something, not
Yeah.
even thinking, just reacting. And
Yeah.
so I think the whiny voice to me is like a childlike thing where she's just like, she needs to be protected or she's freaking out. And, there's a lot of speculation on why she doesn't use Faith's name. I don't think that's a big deal at all, because when you're talking to someone you don't know, they don't know who Faith is. Why are you going to say Faith's here, Faith's her, da 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 da? They don't know.
Exactly.
And if I were to call my son, my daughter, my husband, I wouldn't say, so-and-so's name. That to me is like a non-conversation. I don't know why people put so much credence.
I agree with you on that. However, all I would be saying is your name. Like what she's doing. I'd be like, Jenna, like what happened? What, like talking to you.
Yeah.
And it's as if she already knew she was gone. So she didn't want to go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me uncomfortable. But that's very true. You never know how anyone's going to act. And it is very childlike the way that she is speaking. So benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Nobody expects to see something like that, and it is probably the worst thing she'll ever see.
Ever. And and there's like, listen, I do feel like it is suspect, and I don't want to dive into it too much because everyone could argue this until they're blue in the face. But I do think you can kind of look at it both ways. The things that I don't love is the people that are looking at her every micro comment, like the or it's like, don't put too much power into that. People, like you said, they're going to act how they're going to act. And some people just shut down, I don't know.
I never understood that. I mean, and it's not just this 911 call that makes me suspect and you suspect. There's plenty of other things. If this was the only thing, I'd be like, you can't judge that.
Yeah.
But I think because of all the other things on top of it, it makes it
just
seem
doesn't help her.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So after the call, police arrive actually 8 minutes later, and I'm going to actually read you from the police documents, just so, again, trying to stick to facts here. So the police arrive on scene and was met with Karina, who again kind of described what was going on. And the police walk into the apartment and find, quote, Faith was dead on the bed, face up. Her body was hanging off of the bed over a pool of blood with her black shirt pulled up over her head. She had no clothes on from the waist down. There was blood spatter on the closet, and a bloody tampon was lying beside her on the bed. There was a small white paper bag with the words, and stick with me, it's words, "I am jealous, bitch." The bag was lying on the center of the bed. Okay, that was the first responders, I think, account of what happened. And then just so you know, the actual quote on the bag that was found on her was, "I'm not stupid," and then bitch, and then jealous. So, and it was written on ink on what we later find out is a food bag from Faith from the night before. I guess
it looks kind of like a fast food bag, and it's not on her body, but it's right next to her, and it's written in black ink. It looks like the ink's running out like of a Sharpie, doesn't it?
And that's where the speculation, because in the police account it says it was on her.
Oh,
so that's what. And again, this could be when you see something and you thought that's what you saw and they wrote it later. I don't know when this was written, but that's what was on the actual like quote from the police documents. I've never seen crime scene photo, I don't know, but that's what it says. And I guess the police too, they said that fast food bag was like super easy to recognize where it was from, and they knew for a fact that Faith was there the night before. So it was already in the apartment, is I guess the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
And during the time that police were still at the apartment investigating, Eriq Jones, who, reminder, is the one that Karina has the restraining order against, that lives in the same community, he comes up right to the crime scene tape and is like checking things out, and then goes over to the media and starts talking about what a wonderful person Faith was and how horrible this is. And he says something to the effect of, whoever did this should burn. And he's just really playing up to the media, which is so interesting because he was known to, quote, literally hate her. Like, he was told, it's like on police records that he told someone that he was going to kill Faith because she was essentially in Karina's ear about him, because Faith was the big part of why Eriq had this restraining, or why Karina had this restraining order against Eriq, because he, kicked down the door and he physically assaulted her, and Faith was not having it and was trying to help her friend, and he knew that and he hated her. So it's very strange that he's like singing her praises on camera.
And we've seen this before, right? It's very common, obviously speculation. We don't know who did this, but for perpetrators to come back to the scene, to come to candlelight vigils, to speak to the media. It's a weird, strange thing that most people would think, like, why would you do something like that? But he could be saving face because he knows that there's all of this stuff out there about how much he disliked her. He's getting out there first and getting on the media, because we all know some people only believe what they see on the news, and that's all orchestrated. So
so weird.
Very odd, peculiar behavior from him.
And you can find the clips if you so care to watch it, but it's weird. So there's a lot of speculation of what was found DNA wise in the apartment. Again, I'm gonna just read. Okay, so from a Chapel Hill Police Department department news release, this is a quote. It says, a sexual assault kit was collected which revealed presence of semen. It was determined that the DNA profile generated matched other DNA evidence, which was also recovered from the crime scene. Investigators believe that this DNA belongs to the person responsible for the crime. So again, if you read, there is the word in, on, beside are commonly kind of rotated with where the semen was found. This is the only actual police quote I could find that specifies that it came from the sexual assault kit versus on her, which I see in all news reports, but I've never seen an actual police document that says that. So
I don't know where I read it, but I definitely saw that the semen that they are using, it was inside her.
If it was on her body versus in her body versus on the bedding, it's like a weird, I don't know. I've read 100,000 news reports. I feel
they're probably being
and
vague for a reason.
It's weird. So it came from the sexual assault kit, but then there's also, again, chatter that the other items are a pen and the rum bottle. But again, I can't give you proof of that. That's kind of just what, journalists are reporting on. So maybe they have privy to something I haven't seen, but that's
right. So there's DNA of multiple people, but there's one male DNA profile that supposedly was the semen,
right,
and possibly was on a pen. And what else? That's
the
it?
rum bottle.
And the rum bottle. So that's what they're comparing to when they're DNA testing, when the police go out and they get DNA samples from people. That's what they're comparing it to, that DNA profile that was found on all of those things.
Yeah, and it makes sense because it's in the swabbings from the apartment, or things like pens. So it could be definitely fact that it was found on the pen, on the rum bottle, and in the semen are all matching. And that's the other thing I didn't mention about the crime scene. There is a peach Bacardi rum empty bottle on the floor, covered in blood, skin, all that stuff, and is later determined to be the murder weapon. And what's also odd is there was a Riesling wine bottle collected. So I don't know if it was also on the floor or in the area, but that was also collected as evidence. But the weapon was the Bacardi rum bottle that was
Yeah,
empty, which I feel like it's important to say because I feel like there's got to be a lot of rage behind that.
Yeah, this is what I don't understand because I don't know that much about alcohol bottles, but they're fairly thick, but not indestructible.
Right.
And especially if one is empty, it's lighter, so you can swing it faster. I would
Right.
think if it's a man with a lot
Oh.
of strength, it would shatter. But if somebody's not as strong and they're using it, it wouldn't. So I would say that that's kind of a sign that the person was possibly not a male or not as strong.
It's hard to, so rum bottles, they are a little bit thicker than like
Oh, I
a
love you.
wine
You're like, well, so
bottle.
it's a 1 1/8 inch on the rum, and then with the
I was
vodka.
a bartender. I mean, I also like alcohol, but I was a bartender and
Okay, cool. Tell me.
So empty, it is thicker, but, and so I'm thinking about it as you were talking, you would have to have a lot of force and it definitely could do some damage. Like, I don't think I could do that damage. Do you know what I mean? And it was like autopsy says it was blunt force trauma to her head, all
Yeah.
kinds of, I mean, she took a beating with this thing and it is
Yeah.
so, it definitely would have caused damage, but I feel like, yeah, if it was maybe had half full or full, it would have been way worse. But I think you can just drive force behind an empty bottle versus a full one. I mean,
Yeah, but like if you take an empty bottle and you hit it against the side of a table, it's gonna shatter, right?
I mean,
Maybe
but they're thicker.
maybe we should try
I was
it.
just gonna say, do we need to have like
Maybe we should try it
some
because
bottles and start breaking them? That'll be
the other thing I was
therapeutic.
thinking, if it's two girls, maybe it's not necessarily picking it up and it's like jamming it. You know what I mean? Because the blunt force was mostly to her face,
Yeah.
very personal. And then if you're jamming a bottle in somebody, I don't know, maybe we will have to do some experiments with the Bacardi bottles.
Yeah, and just
Time to have a Bacardi party.
God, I can't. No.
No.
And just kind of we're on the topic, like let's dissect this crime scene a little bit. Because again, lots of speculation. So the note, they've never come out and said that it's matched anybody's handwriting. I don't know, because there's a theory out there that it could have been like the girls talking shit to each other on the bag, possibly like beforehand. So did they ever test Faith's handwriting with it or Karina's handwriting to see if maybe, but I don't know, like like, when you're getting ready, they could be like, oh, jealous bitch.
Yeah.
Like it could have been something along those lines. But either way, to me, that bag is not something a male would do.
No.
The word
everything
jealous,
written on it.
it's
Jealous bitch, like that. Yeah,
that is not something I would associate with being a male. Also,
listen, I have 3 older sisters, and our go-to, if we weren't beating each other with our hands, was notes, okay?
Yeah.
I used to take my sister's lip liner and write, "I hate you," all over her mirror, and then I would come home to my mirror, and she would have written something on mine. We loved leaving notes and saying the most cutting, bitchy things possible. So I don't see a man when he's angry, I'm gonna write a note to her. Like it's totally something a girl does.
Totally could have been done like beforehand and then left there as kind of a red herring, if you will, or it was placed there because they were pissed and they were like, well, I don't know. There are so many theories, but either way, that to me says female.
Yeah.
And then the bloody tampon thing. So to me, again, this screams female because it seems more of a way to like embarrass someone.
Yes, it's humiliation.
Yeah, and I don't know, even in a sexual assault situation, that a guy is going to think about, is she on her period? Let me check and pull that out so I can do something horrible. But like, for real.
I'm sorry to laugh, but that's exactly that. And never, ever, I can say with full confirmation, has that ever happened. Yeah, there's no way they look, there's no way, and if they do, they probably would inflict more pain, so they would just continue. I don't think a man would do that or even know how.
And the thing that I couldn't find that it's frustrating, and I hope that it's in the case files and we just don't know about it, is if they tested, and not to get graphic here, but to test it to see if she was actually menstruating or if it was laid there and is bloody because of the scene to embarrass, humiliate. I would be really
I would
interested.
imagine they tested it and checked, but we can't find anything in the police report about it. So
yeah, I mean, they kept things very close to the vest for a long time, and then I think it was 2 years later they finally released documents, and it's not a lot. It's like 118 pages. I would hope that the case file is much bigger than that. So we only have, privy knowledge.
yeah.
But so Brett, let's dive into this
Pocket dial,
because
let's
there's
do it.
again so much speculation on this.
Yeah. So this voicemail was sent to her friend Una Chavez, and it was a pocket dial. And initially she deleted it because she thought it was an accidental pocket dial. But then she heard about the Hedgepeth murder and called her cell phone service provider, and they were able to retrieve the voicemail. So in 2000, sorry, go ahead.
Quick thinking, like I
Yeah.
am impressed. I mean, that she was like, "Oh shit, this could be important," and thought to do that. So
Oh yeah, I mean, she has to be a true crime girl, because you and I would be on top of it. Like, this is Detective Brittany calling. I need to retrieve my voicemails. And I'm shocked that she got it. I've never gotten anything I've asked for calling a cell phone service provider. So in 2016, Arlo West, who is a very prominent forensic audio expert, analyzed the voicemail, and what he found led him to believe that they, quote, had some evidence here that would help solve this case. The voicemail is really distorted, very staticky. It's harsh and extremely hard to hear. I mean, Jenna and I could barely hear things when we first listened to it, but after Arlo West enhanced the audio, he said that a picture was being painted in his mind. And he said, quote, "I couldn't believe what I was hearing." So
I was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
before we dive into, there is some speculation. He supposedly wasn't given information about the case, but we don't know if he somehow got information.
Googled it.
If he got any information prior. And I just want listen, he is actually an expert. Like I Googled the hell out of him to kind of see his accolades, and he's done a lot of things.
He has credentials, everything.
He's dealt with a lot of audio stuff. So he is an expert in his field. But I don't know. We've heard it. We're not going to play it here. You can Google it. It's very hard to listen to, but this is what he says that he heard.
Yes. So first of all, the first thing he notices is that there are 4 voices, 2 male and 2 female. So female number 1, you hear her say, "Ow, my head. Ow, help me, get off me." And then female number 2 says, "Do it." The first male says, "I think she's dying. Do it anyhow." And he also said female number 2 could be heard threatening female number 1, saying, quote, "Fuck you, I'm pissed. I'm going to kick your face, bitch. I figured out that bullshit, you liar. You intentionally lied. Don't be a pussy. Put up a fight." End quote. And finally, one of the males could be heard saying, quote, "I can't believe you really did it, Rosie." And female number 2 said, quote, "Go help Eriq." End quote.
Okay, so before we get into this, I do want to talk about this whole timestamp stuff because I don't put too much credence into it because I don't know how often this happens, and I wish they would come out with like cell phone record like experts to say one way or the other. From what I've read, police didn't give this any kind of thought and have not really used it or looked into it as evidence. So
because the timestamp was 1:23 a.m. So that would mean that they were in the club at that time. It doesn't sound like it. Like you would hear unts, unts, unts. Like, I mean, maybe they could be like in a.
I hear music. So that's like
I hear it a little bit too.
Okay.
I hear something muffled, but it doesn't sound like a club to me. Maybe outside the club, maybe in the bathroom, that muffled kind of sound. but you couldn't even have that kind of conversation in a club. There's too
Yeah.
much sound, so you would have to be in a different area. But so there was a known issue with iPhone
Right.
timestamps during this
Well, it
whatever
was
year
their
this was.
specific phone. So Eunice, sorry, I don't know,
Yes.
but her phone and Faith's phone, whatever the brand
Yes.
was.
iPhone, I believe. No,
No, I think it was something else. I don't have it in front of me, but
I could have sworn. But anyway, they both had this thing where timestamps were off by 1 or 2 hours. So they would be like 1 or 2 hours early. This was an issue that Yuna said she had to deal with multiple times. She would get calls and know that they weren't from that time. And so she just kind of would I don't remember, subtract an hour, add an hour, and that was kind of around the time that it was. So
yeah.
there's a lot of speculation as to the cops just said, nope, it was made at the club. We can't hear anything. It's a moot point. And
they
other
also
people are saying,
yeah, well, they also, I think too, one of the reasons they did that too is because they sent it to the FBI and they said, no, this can't be, we can't, there's nothing to find here. There's like, we can't do it. It's too,
which
like,
I mean,
distorted.
I'm not putting the FBI down.
No,
They
yeah.
certainly have their hands full. However, how much time and resources do they devote to this? You know what I mean? Like, I know that they're all about helping, and the second they send things off, if they have a lab, they do it. I have a friend that's an FBI agent. I know they're wonderful people, but they're, like, who is listening to that and
Yeah.
deciding that? Like,
Yeah.
is it just like a low person that's like, yeah, that we can't do this? Like,
Yeah.
if they're gonna spend too much time and possibly not come out with an outcome, I'm sure they have some protocol as to like, we can't help you, you
Yeah.
know?
And then another kind of thing is the Hedgepeth family is all kind of listened to parts of this, and they swear they hear Faith's voice and her yelling or screaming.
They're sure that her dad is sure when he hears ow, he's like, that's Faith.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that, Jenna? Do you think that your mind could play a trick on you being a parent and want it to be them, or?
Yes. So my personal belief in this is like I'm not using this when I'm coming to my conclusions either way, because I feel like if you ever preconceived anything, that's what you're hearing. You know what I mean? Like if you say someone's giving you this, tell me if this is your daughter. Well, then you're like, well, and you're hyper, and that's what you're listening for. You're not listening as like a third party do you know what I mean? I just
Absolutely. I've never, knock on wood, had to deal with somebody I loved being involved with a violent crime, but I have lost people very close to me. And afterwards, and of natural causes, you live in this place of you'll look for anything. And that's what a natural cause is. If somebody had been brutally taken away from me, I cannot be I cannot be sure that I wouldn't jump to conclusions just for my heart's sake, for my brain's sake, just to make yourself have some sort of hope or something.
And again, like, the Rosie part is very telling. But again, did Arlo West know he was looking for someone that maybe had a
I
nickname
know.
or not? Because that's where I don't know. I don't think, I almost am glad. I don't want to say glad, but I'm almost kind of glad the police aren't using this as evidence in a way, because it's like, you just don't know for sure. And that to me, I don't know.
Yeah, when you have that compared to the actual murder weapon, DNA, when they had all of that, they probably thought, well, let's focus on this real science-based stuff we've got.
Police didn't really tell the public a whole lot, kept everything close. I believe it was, like I said, 2 years later, things started kind of coming out, court documents. The thing that I find to be very interesting is the time of death has never really been released. But when I did a little bit more digging, the website of the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation, which is the SBI, has all of her like stats, and it says time frame 2:40 a.m. to 11 a.m., which I thought was very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, because Karina is still there until 4.
Right. So, and again, we only know what she's telling them. And, I was watching the 2020, which I believe was a year after the murder. It was like 8 months after the murder it came out or something. And they had said at that point that they had interviewed Karina at least 10 times by then. So they're obviously questioning something in maybe the timeline or her account or whatever. Something interesting too about kind of what was going on is a neighbor had heard like a couple of thumps. And she said it sounded like a heavy book bag was kind of being thrown. And it's interesting that if she was awake at this point and she did hear something, why was it not more? Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone's getting brutally attacked, to me, that
Honestly, in
suggests
this,
two people,
yeah.
or like somehow, you know what I don't know. To me, it seems like maybe someone's containing her while the other ones, I don't know. I don't know, but it to me was a little bit suspect that there was no other sounds.
I saw the neighbor speaking and her saying like police weren't interested at all, and in those situations I always go back to my psychology degree because people always want to be helpful.
Yeah.
And so almost always when you're at crime scenes there are people who will say they heard things, think they heard things, and think they're being helpful, and
Mhm.
it just kind of grows from there in their mind, and that's what it seemed like to me. She just, I mean, it was devastating case, trying to think like, oh, maybe I think I did hear a bump, and I don't really think that maybe she heard a thump, but yeah, I think you would have heard a lot more than that. That's not the only thing she would have heard in an apartment complex.
Right. And so I don't remember if it was her or a separate neighbor, but they also stated that they actually saw Karina and Marisol in the morning, but she said it
Yes.
was closer to 10 a.m., not 11 a.m.
Yes.
And that when they were leaving the apartment, they weren't crying, they weren't solemn, they were like texting, or at least Karina was texting.
Karina was texting, Marisol was crying, but she said she just had tears and she just seemed like miffed, not devastated, upset what she had just seen. She said she never would have expected that they had just seen what they saw with how nonchalant they seemed.
Yeah. So kind of going into the investigation. So Eriq Jones was a very strong suspect right from the beginning because of his history with domestic violence and his threat against Faith. And they also found that the night before the murder, he had texted an acquaintance asking for forgiveness, quote, for what I'm about to do. And he also posted the same message to his Twitter feed. And then 3 days later, he changed the banner on his Facebook page to read, quote, Dear Lord, forgive me for all of my sins and the sins I may commit today. Protect me from the girls who don't deserve me and the ones who wish me dead today. What?
A narcissist. I mean, he's like protecting himself, and then like, forgive me what I might commit today. Like, if anything, maybe he was contemplating suicide, but narcissists would never kill themselves. They think they're too wonderful. All of this is weird behavior, abnormal behavior. He needs to be questioned much, much more thoroughly.
Yeah. So police did try to get a DNA sample from Jones, who was considered a person of interest. And after some initial resistance, he did give his DNA and it did not match the sample from the apartment. And he was excluded because of that DNA. And I understand that there's DNA here, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't just write maybe people off that are this suspect. Like, I hope that they're still keeping an eye on him because maybe he didn't do the actual murder, but maybe he's involved somehow.
I couldn't agree more. Like, go back to 1994 with OJ. Nobody believed DNA. It was like, this is ridiculous. What's this crap? Today, people are like, oh, there's DNA. Oh, they'll catch them. But it's not that easy. Like, because the public has become so like, oh, well, there's DNA. You know it was that person. Like Jenna's saying, not always. These girls had Karina had other sexual partners. They were in college. You don't always clean your sheets. Like, put it together. There could be DNA from many people.
Right. And Paul Holt has even said, because they've reported on this case, even when you're doing a sexual assault kit and if there's semen found inside, he's like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's from the crime. It could be
from 4 days ago.
It doesn't necessarily mean. So I feel like they're putting way too much credence into this DNA and they need to maybe keep some people investigating while they're still trying to figure out who this DNA belongs to.
And again, we don't know that they're discounting these
I mean,
people
that's just what
because
they're
their
saying, that
DNA
they're excluded.
isn't matching,
Yeah.
but they are DNA testing. So from the very beginning, this investigation was kept very close to the vest. And this was out of the ordinary for Chapel Hill police. They never really did that. And they sealed these records immediately.
Yeah.
And we're getting all of this information because we're over 7 years out.
Right.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have known any of this.
Right.
All of this was kept secret. So it seems like they were in over their head, and then they went the DNA route. But now I'm with you. Like, I certainly hope they're not letting these guys like completely off the person of interest list just because their DNA didn't match, because it seems like there's so much more here.
Yeah. And then DNA from Brandon Edwards and many other men who they had been in with the night of the murder at Thrill had kind of the same situation. All tested, all didn't match, thus were excluded, according to police. So police questioned Karina's booty call, Brandon Edwards, and he admitted to spending the night actually at the apartment the night before the murders, and his DNA was collected like all the other guys, and again there was no match. And they did this with
sorry to interrupt, but so he was at that house the night before. Remember, this was a 1-bedroom apartment that had a couch, correct? And Faith was sleeping on the couch.
Right. So it sounded like Faith slept on the couch, but because maybe she knew Karina was I don't know how she ended up in the bed. But although I did live with girlfriends where that would happen too. So like she probably spent
that
the
night. Sure. Yeah, she just wanted to be comfortable, whatever, was drunk.
But you're assuming he was in her bed. Is that what you're getting to?
No, I'm just saying these are very close quarters for 2 girls, and like guys to be coming over and sleeping with Karina, but seeing this beautiful girl that also lives there, anyway, it's just something to keep in mind with all of these other men coming in for Karina.
Yeah. A year after the murder, the police did reach out to the SBI to help. So it's like another form. It's like it's basically like the FBI, right?
Yeah, each state has their own, California has CBI, California Bureau of Investigations.
So they were brought in to assist the case after about a year. And then there's also, the Crime Stoppers, along with the Native American community, had put together a reward around the time that this is all going on too, the investigation's going on. So
that was a big deal, because around the same time there was another missing person or murder that occurred near Chapel Hill, and a reward was given, and the person was found right away. So that was a big deal that they put all of this money, the governor, Bev Perdue, added $10,000, and it ended up being $29,000, right? The reward money.
Yeah, now it's 40,000, but yeah, at the time it was about 29, and now today it's 40,000.
Yeah, and still they have persons of interest, but everybody, like Jenna said, has been tested against the DNA found and ruled out.
So let's talk about this phenotype report?
Yeah, so there is phenotyping that can be done from DNA. So if anybody has done their 23andMe or something like that, you get back kind of like it says you have a 90% chance of having blue eyes. For example, that's what it said for me, but I have green eyes. But both of my parents have blue eyes. I have 3 sisters and they all have blue eyes. So that was a good guess, but it's wrong. So it's pretty damn accurate. Like, it will tell you what region of the world you're from, what color eyes you most likely have, if you have freckles or not. These are weird things that genetically they can see through the DNA. So the phenotype that they released, they added an image, which is also controversial because it's not exact, and that's always something that it's hard. It's frustrating that the public doesn't know that when they release a sketch or a composite, it's not exactly that person. It has lots of elements, and it's supposed to make you think of somebody similar or something like that. So anyhow, We'll show the picture of the phenotyping report that was done. It ended up showing, sorry, go ahead,
No, I was just
Jenna.
wanting to say on that note, and I keep referring to him because they did do an episode about this also, but Paul Holes had said specifically they did this with the Golden State Killer, and
Mhm.
their image looked nothing like.
Nothing like him.
Yeah. So, you take it with a grain of salt. Like, I think it's a good tool in terms of pointing you in the right direction.
Yeah.
But it's not a picture of the person. So, and it's hard
No.
because it looks like a picture of someone.
Yeah, and Paul Holes is kind of the grandfather of this phenotyping and finding the Golden State Killer as a result. And even then, when they did the Golden State Killer, they found out that he had very strong Italian descent. And so they had 10 people that they were, different cops had were sure it was this person. But then when they ended up finding that it was Italian, they were able to discount somebody who had, completely different genetic history. So that's the way it helps, not like finding, oh, that's the person. However, in this situation, something kind of funky happened because so we see this picture, the phenotyping picture that they released. It ends up saying that he has olive skin, most likely Hispanic, most likely brown hazel eyes with 93.8% confidence, black hair, 92.5% confidence, and no freckles, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that
0,
denotes?
few freckles, 93% confidence.
Right. So it's a Hispanic man, and BMI is showing like a fairly thin, tall man. And every person that we've introduced to you has been African American, range in heights, mostly short. So it's definitely not what we were expecting. However, when we go, okay, well, is there anyone in the situation that's Hispanic? Karina. And then Jenna sends me a picture, which,
I don't want to say good. There was someone that we found that was related to somebody that was, kind of being questioned in this, and their picture looks identical. So I was like,
yeah.
oh my goodness. And I would hope this person has been looked at. I mean, I'll send in a tip for sure to Crime Stoppers because, whatever, maybe it helps. Because the other thing, too, I was just looking at, the skin color is only 85.7 confidence. So what does that even mean? It says, do you
But
see at the
there's
bottom? It says dark olive, light olive skin, 85.7 confidence. So is there a chance that it's
completely
lighter,
different.
darker?
Yeah.
And it's
So it's a
interesting
rough
too.
outline.
Yeah, and this company is also, I think, getting away from this and now doing more of like the, what is it called? Like the genotyping, like where they did with GSK, where they plugged it into a system and they're trying to find people that are
Yes,
related. And
going actually with DNA and finding a relative,
yeah,
which I would believe would be much more accurate. I would feel much more
same.
confident as a cop using that and taking it to trial.
Yep.
Because a defense attorney is going to be all over phenotyping because it is not accurate. It's a suggestion. And I feel like we're going to get closer and closer to better technology, that this is just going to be, I don't even know if it's permissible in court. Do you know if it is phenotyping like images and things? That's something we should look into. And
That's a good point because it's so, I mean, that's not so new because this was released in 2013 or 14. I think 13.
yeah, they have one for the Delphi killer.
No, I know. I'm saying this was done a while ago, so I'm wondering if things
Yeah.
have caught up in trial wise to see if
Oh,
it's
right.
something that is being able to use. Because like GSK, I think you were telling me they're still trying to figure out how that plays into if it's okay to introduce into court, right? Like, so
Yeah.
they're kind of still figuring all that out. But while we're on that note, if you do have tips on this case, you can go to the Chapel Hill Police. There's a phone number. We'll put it all on our website. Crime Stoppers is always a great place. there's tons of, we'll list all of our sources. Something you guys can do too is like, we're talking about all this. It's very Murder Squad-esque, but I follow them and I love that they do this. And I encourage everyone. I've never done it, so I need to do my like 23andMe so I can have access to this stuff too. But upload your data to the GED match. Or you can go to the website justiceforfaith.com for more information on her family. They have a scholarship that they offer to one girl a year, where they do this like $1,000 scholarship to one Native American girl for college. So there's some great things that have come out of this, but this is, I kind of want to go backwards now that we've given you guys all the information, unless I'm forgetting something. And I want to just, like, I know I have thoughts. Brittany, what do you think happened here?
Well, and yeah, this is our speculation
Right.
segment. Can we have speculation across the
Yeah.
screen?
Our opinions.
Yeah. It seems to me that Faith was a very intelligent girl with her head on straight, and um I'm sure you and I have had friends when we were young that were wild and fun, but made poor decisions.
Mhm.
And it seems like that's where Karina was. No judgment. She's a young
Yeah,
girl,
no.
but clearly they were involved with violent men. And also, girls that are this close, that are comfortable enough to have booty calls while you're on the couch and that sort of thing. That's a level of intimacy even for friends, like I would be kind enough to, like, that just seems very enmeshed in my mind. So, and I can't help but notice that Faith is just stunningly gorgeous, and Karina, it doesn't really hold a candle. So I would imagine these guys coming over for Karina, who seems to be easier to connect with, and then Faith has, it seems like she had standards, she had respect for herself, and I think guys are attracted to that. Like,
Yeah.
sure, it's easy to be with the easy girl, but you really want the
It's
other one.
harder. It's like the chase.
Yeah, and if they're getting things so easily from other girls, and then it's hard for her, I can see somebody snapping. And so I don't know whether or not that's a man in this situation or a woman, but it seems like there was some sort of jealousy because of the rage and the passion, because it's not as if she was beaten in the back of her head. It was face to face.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the awful words on that bag, which even if it was from another time, that's, to me, it's humiliation. The bloody tampon, humiliation. The way that she was left, and left for so long.
Mhm.
Like, if in fact somebody was involved and then waited that long to come back, there's so much of it just feels personal and not like a one-off, like a one time a guy saw her. I feel like somebody knew her.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it was somebody very close to them, and somebody definitely knows who it was. And I just hope that they say something, because I feel my heart goes out to this family. They're just like shattered. And not that it's going to bring her back, but knowing what happened, it does seem to bring some sort of closure, at least to the parents, because God knows the things that they're imagining in their mind must be awful. And you think, was it this? Was it that? I can't imagine. My mind
Nope.
would go there. It would be too hard to not think about that. It's your child. I mean, you spend your day thinking, are they cold? Do they need food? And then having something like that had happened, I just see it. You see it in the parents' face, and they always say, like, I wasn't there to protect them, which is so god awful, because it's not their fault, but that pain, I feel like just knowing something, if somebody could say something, like somebody had to have spoken to somebody, and just that little tiny tip that you think wouldn't help. It would. Like, somebody has to step up here.
It breaks my heart when you say about her mom, because I know she said when she got on the scene, she was like, let me just go in there and hold my baby's hand. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, no, I can't. Kind of taking a step, going backwards a minute. I just wanted to reread this because I forgot to do it earlier. In 2013, there was a press release done by Chapel Hill, and they had gotten a profile from the FBI of like who could have done this. So they say the homicide suspect is familiar with the victim and may have lived near the victim in the past. The homicide suspect was unaccounted for during the early morning hours of September 7th, 2012. The homicide suspect may have had comments regarding the victim to close associates in the past. There may have been some change in the homicide suspect's behavior after the murder to include an unusual interest in the case or change in his, I would say, or her performance at work or school. But they say his, they didn't say or her. So that's interesting. The homicide suspect may have left the area unexpectedly or unplanned manner. He may have also had an explanation for the sudden departure. So another thing to note really quick is Karina did leave town very soon after this, and she's never, which I actually commend her for if she had nothing to do with this, because we just got off talking about, Alexis Sharkey, how her friend was way too vocal. So she's never spoken to the media ever. And is that because she doesn't, maybe she's been asked by the police not to, maybe she doesn't, or maybe she's got something to hide and she doesn't want to be scrutinized even more. I mean, listen, let's say she knew nothing of this and she's getting grilled, like she's getting taken to task online and, because of the phone call and this and that. And so if she's 100% innocent, I'd be like, I'm not going on TV to get but I don't know that she had anything to do with it. Obviously, we don't know. My stance is I think she knows more than she's telling 100%. I don't know that that was the first time she saw the scene. I feel like just based on reaction, to me, it seems like she already knew it was there or something. I just don't know that
So it sounds like you think it was probably somebody else, but maybe she knew more about it.
Yeah, listen, the semen situation and the DNA that's on 3 different things that point to someone that they can't narrow down, that's extremely suspect. But I don't know. It feels like more than one person, and I think she could be someone who is either there, because you have to think about the time frame too, in my opinion. Like, there wasn't a lot of time. Like, let's say for argument's sake, let's say she did it. Did she really have enough time to clean up, dispose of her clothes? Like, do you know what I mean? And you've been drinking. Um, I just don't feel like, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but I don't feel like she would have been capable of pulling that off.
I think you're onto something, because even if you think about, not to generalize, but the type of girl that gets caught up with men, boys, I don't know, men like Eriq are not very secure in themselves, and not, they don't think highly of themselves. Maybe something happened to them when they were young. They're more, I wouldn't think that's the type of meticulous, like nefarious type of personality. That would be more of like a rage issue. But I don't think she's capable of all of that thought after the fact and things like that. But it is weird that she waited until 11 a.m. I mean, what was she doing in that time? Coming up with a story, figuring it out.
Right. Or is the neighbor wrong about the time too? Like, that could be a total situation also. There's so many questions, and this is why, like, my head is exploding from this case. It happened in 2012. How many years is that? 8 what year are we in? 9 years?
21, 9 years, yeah.
Like,
it'll be 9 years in September. So
I just want closure for this family, but I also, like, really hope someone in the police department, whoever is in charge of this case now, because I don't know if it's still that woman cop or not that initially was doing it, but I feel like it needs fresh eyes, and like maybe not put so much weight into the DNA. Like find out who that is, and like definitely needs to be questioned and figure out what's going on there. But I think Karina knows more than she's saying. I don't think she murdered anybody, but I think she's definitely knows something.
Do we happen to know where she is now, Karina? I didn't see anything, and I don't remember you telling me you saw anything either.
I don't know where it was, but in one of the specials I watched, I think it was 2020, the journalist went to her home because they couldn't get a hold of her, and she was out on the patio, and they said, "Can we speak with you?" And she like turned around and walked off. I don't know where that was though. I'm assuming she went home to wherever home may be, probably within the state still. But from what I've read, she's not in contact with anybody that she used to be friends with. Like her and Marisol, I don't think are in contact, or if they are, it's not on Facebook. 'Cause I tried to look and see what was going on there. Marisol's given one interview that I could find, and she actually did come off like she was devastated. I mean, she was in a bucket of tears and really did seem genuinely like upset and shocked. So I don't know what part she played in all of this. I mean, she was there, and I think she could maybe give some more insight to Karina's behavior and what was going on and all of that. But
I quickly looked up the chief of police at Chapel Hill, and it's Chris Blue. So
there was a woman that took over for a long time. I'm forgetting her name, but
maybe it's a different police department. I'll check that out and leave an update. But yeah, I do wonder if it's the same person and what the latest is.
People need fresh eyes, like maybe some cold case specialists or something that know how to kind of look at it from a different point of view. And it's
that you know what I was thinking of? Because so if you think about how many, I was just listening to another podcast, and a detective was saying that pretty much police departments across the country have evidence lockers full of rape kits. And it's not that they haven't been tested. It's not that they can't find the person. They don't have the manpower to go get those and run them through the DNA labs. There's not enough labs. It's very expensive. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough manpower. And it just made me think, because this is such a genre where people want to be helpful, right? And if there would be some sort of way that they could create a nonprofit, maybe it would be, people that are going to school to become lawyers, paralegals, something like that, where they could, a nonprofit where we could give money and they could go in and search these kits and try to solve, because you could solve, he said, if you could run all the kits this today across the country, you could find tens of thousands of perpetrators.
Did you just find our next passion project?
I know. Aren't you shocked that there isn't something like that?
I am.
Well, there's
shocked,
the Innocence
actually.
Project, which is fantastic. But
I think a lot of the families have taken it upon themselves, like, and not to be controversial, but the JonBenet Ramsey, like her dad has, personally gotten money to try and help with testing for that purpose, or he's paying for it out of pocket. I did remember hearing the family, so her parents, Faith's parents, are going to be going the route of what is it called?
Familial DNA.
Familial, thank you. But I don't know if that panned out, if they did it, because this was maybe, where did I hear it? Oh, I heard at the end of, I keep referencing this, but I heard at the end of Murder Squad, somebody said that they were going that route. And so that was maybe like a year or so ago that they did the case. So
yeah,
I don't know, but it's
it's too bad, because she's right on the precipice, right? Like 2012, it wasn't that, like 23andMe, I feel like got big like 2015, so
Yeah.
there's probably not as many people, but it's only a matter of time. Everybody's buying them as gifts. Buy them for everyone, buy them as gifts, and make people upload them to GEDmatch. If you didn't do anything wrong, fine, but you could solve a crime. You could take a murderer off the streets just by uploading that,
Yeah.
and don't kid yourself that thinking that that's not that that it's like private information that you can keep secret, because I guarantee you they've got it all on all
Oh,
of
yeah.
us.
I wouldn't. Yeah. The only person who should be worried is the person who leaves their DNA at a crime scene.
Exactly.
If you're not worried, then,
Yeah.
have at it. But I think we got it all. I mean, this case, like I said, there's so many aspects and little details and things to talk about. I'm really curious to hear everyone's perspective on this, because I think everyone feels strongly kind of one way or the other when they hear about this case. So yeah, I mean, don't bully people, but either online.
Let us know in the comments what you think, what we missed, if you want us to cover something else. And please, my goodness, if you have any information in this case, call Crime Stoppers, go online, it's anonymous. Anything would help. Anything.
Yep. And then next week, you guys are going to get an episode from us, some updates, because there's a lot of updates on cases that we've done in the last year. And so we're going to do that. And then we'll have some new stuff in the pipeline for you guys. And in the meantime, make sure you subscribe either here or on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode or an update.
And feel free to review us, because by all means, it helps us. It really, truly does.
All right, guys. So until next time, what is it?
Be safe
And trust your gut. Bye.
Adios.